All right, get ready because today we're going to do a deep dive into Born a Crime.
Oh, yeah.
It's Trevor Noah's autobiography.
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to kind of unpacking this
Right.
and seeing what it was like growing up,
Yeah.
mixed race and apartheid in South Africa.
I think it's going to be a fascinating look at that
Mhm.
time and place and
Absolutely.
and also just a really
Yeah.
interesting personal story.
It's funny too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like I was laughing out loud so many times reading this.
It's interesting, isn't it? The way he weaves the humor in.
Yeah.
It's not your typical autobiography. It's not like chronological,
Right.
start to finish.
Yeah.
It's more like a collection of stories,
Exactly.
like little snapshots from his life.
And each one is like so powerful
Yeah.
and also, like I said, really funny.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't shy away from like the
Yeah.
hard stuff,
Not at all.
but it's always like this kind of undercurrent of humor.
Right. Well, I think to really understand Noah's story,
Yeah.
we need to kind of grasp the reality of apartheid.
Yeah.
I mean, the system was literally designed to segregate and exploit
Mm-hmm.
non-white South Africans
Yeah.
and created a society where,
Yeah.
racial divisions were so entrenched.
Right. And he calls it apart hate.
Yeah.
That's the strategy.
Apart hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's chilling how effective that was
Yeah.
at turning people against one another.
And, he talks about how black South Africans
Yeah.
outnumbered white South Africans
5-1?
5-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet they were systematically divided,
Yeah.
into these different tribes,
Right,
different
yeah.
languages.
Yeah.
It really created this atmosphere of suspicion and fear.
It's so messed up.
It is.
It's like a really sick game of divide and conquer.
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
classic colonial strategy.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, how does a
Yeah.
kid even begin to navigate that kind of a world?
Yeah, and that's where his upbringing becomes so fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, he talks about growing up with very limited exposure to pop culture.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a childhood without Boys to Second Men?
Like, apparently Boys the Second Men were banned in his house.
Really?
Yeah, his mother, Patricia,
Wow.
was so religious and wanted to protect him from what she perceived
Yeah.
as negative influences.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's
So that strict upbringing really had a profound impact.
right.
I mean, he developed this deep faith
Mhm.
and a very unique perspective on the world.
Yeah.
It's almost like he was viewing things through a different lens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of that.
What about his education?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he go to like multiple churches every Sunday?
The Sunday church marathon
Oh, yeah.
was like white church,
Wow.
mixed church,
Right.
black church,
Yeah.
and then sometimes back to white church for the evening service.
Oh, my gosh.
It's exhausting just thinking about it. I know it sounds more like an endurance test than a day of worship.
Yeah, but
Right.
you can really sense Patricia's determination
Right.
to give him a diverse
Yeah.
religious experience.
And she loved her car.
oh, yeah.
Right. Like she really.
The car was freedom for her.
Yeah. It was like a symbol of freedom.
Yeah,
But more than just getting to church, it was like a
Right.
way to escape
right.
the limitations placed on
Yeah.
black South Africans.
It's amazing how an everyday object, like a car,
Right.
could hold such profound meaning
Yeah.
in that context.
So that leads us to like one of the most incredible stories in the book. And I don't even
Believable.
know if you can believe this. But
Go ahead.
Trevor Noah learned to drive at 6 years old.
6 years old
6 years old
on a deserted highway
on a deserted highway.
with his mom as the instructor.
I know.
I mean, come on.
It's insane, but like
It's
it really speaks to like the resourcefulness. Yeah.
and the willingness to break the mold
Absolutely.
that were instilled in him from such a young age.
Patricia was not afraid to push boundaries.
No.
And that independent spirit
Yeah.
definitely rubbed off on Noah.
Speaking of which,
Uh-oh, what did he do now?
well, he talks about a lot of his mischievous antics in the book.
Yeah.
Remember the one where he accidentally burned down his stepfather's garage?
Oh, yes, the incident with the fire.
Yeah.
Classic example of Noah's curiosity
Yeah.
and how his actions often had
Well,
unintended
Yeah.
consequences.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember the story about the deaf dog?
Oh, the deaf dog, that's right.
I was trying to remember that one.
Yeah, go ahead. They had this deaf dog, and they
Okay.
thought the dog was stupid.
Okay.
It turns out their other dog,
Right.
the one they considered to be smart,
Yeah.
had been compensating
Wow.
for the deaf dog its entire life.
That's incredible.
So the whole family thought this dog was like,
Yeah.
really dumb. Just like not there.
Yeah. But it was just deaf.
Wow.
And the other dog was like covering.
Wow, what a good friend.
Right. What a good friend.
And it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like one of those stories that just reveals so much
Yeah.
about, Noah's personality.
Yeah. Always pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
finding loopholes.
Always finding a way.
And creating chaos
Right.
wherever he went.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
He had this knack for finding the absurdity in these everyday situations,
Right.
which is probably what makes him such a brilliant comedian today.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But of course, it wasn't all fun and games
Right.
growing up in apartheid South Africa.
No.
And I think, one of the things that people are so intrigued by
Yeah.
with his story is his experience as a mixed race person
Right.
during that time.
Well, it's crucial to understand the racial hierarchy
Yeah.
during apartheid.
Yeah.
I mean, Noah was essentially an outsider in both the black and what was called the colored communities.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's confusing, right?
Colored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a complicated classification
Okay.
that reflects the legacy of, colonialism and racial mixing.
Yeah.
Under apartheid, colored people
Mm-hmm.
were considered a separate racial category,
Oh, wow.
distinct from both black and white.
So he was just like
He was in this in-between space.
Yeah.
Never fully accepted by either side.
It's crazy to think that people actually aspired
No.
to be reclassified as white during apartheid.
Yeah.
And then when that system vanished,
Right.
it completely upended.
Right. It was a seismic shift
Yeah.
in identity and
Yeah.
social status.
That must have been so disorienting.
It must have been incredibly disorienting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of uncertain worlds, we have to talk about his entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this guy was hustling
From a young age?
from such a young age. I mean, it's important to understand the context,
Right.
right? Like, apartheid had ended,
Mhm.
but opportunities for Black South Africans,
Right.
particularly young people
Especially young people from disadvantaged backgrounds.
from disadvantaged backgrounds, were still, like,
Very limited.
super limited.
Yeah.
And so he talks about how there were no jobs
Well, yeah,
to
yeah.
be had.
So he created his own opportunities.
So he created his own opportunities,
Yeah.
and he started by selling pirated CDs,
Mm-hmm.
and then he moved on to DJing at parties.
Well,
and then
through a series of
I
almost comical misadventures,
yeah,
he ends up running a pawn shop
right,
in Alexandra,
yeah,
which is one of the
most notorious townships.
most notorious townships in Johannesburg.
Yeah, and that whole chapter is like a wild ride.
It is.
We hear about elaborate schemes, shady deals,
Right.
close calls with gangsters.
It sounds like a movie.
It does sound like a movie.
Yeah.
But it was his reality.
It was very real for him.
Yeah.
It's a glimpse into a world
Yeah.
that most people never see,
Right.
where resourcefulness and street smarts
Yeah.
were essential for survival.
And it's also where he starts to really grapple
Right.
with the complexities of race and identity
Yeah.
in a post-apartheid world.
With the apartheid world.
Like, even in Alexandra,
Mm.
surrounded by other Black people,
Mm-hmm.
he was still seen as an outsider.
Still an outsider.
Yeah.
He had this unique perspective, having
Yeah.
grown up straddling
Right.
these different worlds,
Yeah.
different cultures.
Yeah. And he says it's easier to be an insider as an outsider than to be an outsider
Get an outsider as an insider.
as an insider,
Yeah.
which is so interesting.
It's profound.
Yeah.
And amidst all of this,
Right.
he maintains his sense of humor.
Yeah.
Finding the absurd
Right.
in even the most challenging situations.
Yeah.
It becomes this coping mechanism,
Yeah, right.
a way to connect with people, and a tool for sharing his experiences
Yeah.
with others.
Like the story about him pretending to be Spliff Star,
Oh, my God.
Busta Rhymes' hype man at a
Yeah.
talent show
I love that story.
in a rural township.
Yeah.
And he's like conned into it
Yeah, he gets conned into it by his friend Tom,
by his friend Tom.
who's like the ultimate wingman,
Right.
promises him a date with a beautiful girl
Right.
if he'll go on stage and rap.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
he doesn't know any Busta Rhymes lyrics.
He doesn't know any of the words.
Right.
And Tom's like, don't worry about it.
Right. It doesn't matter.
These people don't speak English.
They don't speak English.
It'll be fine.
So he's up there making up lyrics as he goes along,
Right.
and the crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes wild.
It's amazing.
It's just this perfect example
Yeah.
of his quick thinking
Mm-hmm.
and his ability to kind of charm his way out of any situation.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
And it's also a reminder that humor can transcend
Yes.
language barriers
It can.
and cultural differences.
A universal language in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It creates these moments of shared joy and connection.
And I think in that moment, you see
Yeah.
his talent as a performer
Mm-hmm.
begin to blossom.
Yeah, he's finding his voice.
Yeah.
He's finding his confidence.
Yeah.
And his ability to connect with people.
Yeah.
Through that shared laughter and experience.
Absolutely.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, and speaking of finding his voice,
Yeah.
one of the things that really struck me about the book was how it challenges like the typical narrative of the apartheid story.
It's a fresh perspective.
It's so fresh and nuanced.
Yeah.
He doesn't downplay the brutality,
No.
but he also shows us the humanity
Right.
of the people.
Right. The people who lived through it.
Who lived through it.
Yeah.
Like he talks about how in South Africa, the atrocities of apartheid were never really taught in a way that encouraged introspection or critical analysis.
Yeah, it was more like
It was just like,
apartheid was bad.
yeah.
Nelson Mandela was freed.
Right.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's just move on.
Yeah.
And it's like such a dangerous oversimplification
So it is.
of a really complex and painful history.
Yeah. And what Noah does so brilliantly is complicate that narrative.
Right.
He shows us the everyday realities.
Yeah.
The ways in which it permeated every aspect of life.
Right.
The absurdity of the rules. And the resilience of the people who found ways to resist and survive.
And he does it all with this incredible sense of humor.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like, it's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, humor can be this tool for healing.
Absolutely.
And a way to make sense of the world around us.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got apartheid. We've got these complex family dynamics, entrepreneurial adventures,
Right.
and a whole lot of humor.
And a whole lot of humor.
But there's one more story we need to talk about before we move on.
Oh, okay. What's that?
The Matrix dance incident.
Oh, the Babiki incident?
Yeah.
This is gold.
Pure comedic gold.
Yeah.
So, for those who haven't read the book,
Right.
Noah's friend Tom promises to find him a date for the Matrix dance.
Okay.
And he delivers,
Of course he does.
but in a very Tom kind of way.
Yeah, how so?
He sets Noah up with this beautiful girl,
Okay.
but she doesn't speak English
Oh, no.
at all.
At all.
And Noah doesn't speak her language.
What language does she speak?
Petey.
Petey. Okay. So they end up at this dance
Right.
surrounded by hundreds of people.
Oh my gosh.
Completely unable to communicate with each other.
That's brutal.
It's like a scene from a sitcom.
It is.
And to make matters worse, Noah shows up
Okay.
in this ridiculously flashy outfit.
What is he wearing? Bright pink suit.
Oh, my.
Borrowed from a friend.
Oh, my God.
He looks like he walked straight out of Miami Vice.
Oh, no.
Ready to hit the dance floor.
My gosh.
But the reality is so much more awkward.
I can imagine.
He spends the entire night
trying to find a translator?
trying to find someone who can translate for him.
Yeah.
No luck.
No luck.
Eventually, he gives up,
Yeah.
retreats to the parking lot,
Feeling like an
feeling like a complete idiot. But then, in a twist of fate,
Okay.
Babiki leans over
Yeah.
and gives him a kiss.
A real kiss.
A real kiss.
Wow.
And it's this unexpected moment of connection
Right.
that just completely throws him for a loop.
I bet.
Yeah.
What a great ending
I know.
to a perfectly absurd story.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
just highlights his ability
Okay.
to find humor in the most like
Binge-worthy.
cringeworthy situations,
Yeah.
but also reminds us that sometimes,
Yeah.
even when everything seems to be going wrong, life can surprise you
Life can surprise you.
with these unexpected moments of connection.
Absolutely.
And sometimes those moments come from the most unlikely of places.
most unlikely of places.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great segue into discussing the larger themes of the book.
Okay.
Because Born a Crime
Mm-hmm.
is about so much more
Right.
than just
Yeah.
Trevor Noah's personal story.
Oh, you think it's about?
I think it's about the search for belonging,
Okay.
the desire to understand our place in the world,
Yeah.
and the power of human connection
Yeah.
to transcend
Okay.
cultural differences
Right.
and societal barriers.
Right.
Like, these are universal themes
Absolutely.
that I think resonate
Yeah.
with everyone.
Regardless of where they come from
Yeah.
or their background.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
So,
I'm excited to dive into that.
me too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
You know, it's interesting how the book is so funny, but like,
Right.
he doesn't shy away from those harsh realities of
no.
apartheid at all.
Mm-hmm.
He really paints this vivid picture
Yeah.
of the violence and fear
Yeah.
that were just woven into daily life.
Absolutely. And one of the most striking examples is
Yeah.
his arrest
Yeah.
for driving a car without the proper paperwork.
Yeah.
It really highlights like the arbitrary nature of the law under apartheid,
Yeah.
where Black South Africans were constantly targeted and criminalized.
And he was just borrowing his stepfather's car.
Right.
But because of like a missing title, he was thrown in jail.
It's crazy.
It's insane. And it really makes you think about how these systems of oppression create an atmosphere of distrust and fear and impact generations to come.
Absolutely. And it just underscores how easily basic freedoms can be stripped away when power is concentrated in the hands of a few.
You know, speaking of powerful figures.
Oh, yeah.
We can't talk about Born a Crime without talking about his mother.
Patricia.
Patricia.
Yes. She is an incredible force.
She's like this incredible force throughout the entire book.
Throughout the book, yeah.
Guiding and protecting him through every obstacle.
Her faith and her resilience are truly remarkable.
I know.
I mean, think about everything she endured.
Right.
Raising a mixed-race child alone.
During apartheid?
During apartheid.
Yeah.
Facing constant discrimination.
Yeah.
Struggling to make ends meet. And then the horrific shooting.
I know, that whole episode is gut-wrenching.
It's just heartbreaking.
Like the phone call, the frantic rush to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like the uncertainty of whether she would even survive.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder of the violence that just permeated South African society.
But even in that moment of extreme trauma,
I know,
she finds a way to make a joke.
She does.
It's a testament to her spirit.
Absolutely.
Her ability to find humor in even the darkest of times.
Even in the darkest of times.
Do you remember what she says?
Oh, yeah, when she opens her eye.
Yeah.
Her unbandaged eye.
And she's like.
And she says, now you're officially
the best looking person in the family.
The best looking person in the family.
Just like.
I mean, it's such a powerful moment of defiance and resilience.
Yeah.
In the face of unimaginable pain.
Speaking of Patricia. Yeah. We also have to talk about Noah's father.
Robert. Yeah. Their relationship was
complicated, to say the least.
Complicated, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, Noah acknowledges that his existence was a crime under apartheid law.
Under apartheid law.
It was a product of a forbidden interracial relationship.
Exactly.
So they had to keep their relationship a secret for many years.
And it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. You know, I know he couldn't even call his dad Dad.
I know.
In public.
Yeah, he had to refer to him as Robert.
He had to call him Robert.
Just another stark illustration of the absurdity and the cruelty of apartheid.
And how it impacted even the most fundamental human bonds.
Absolutely.
You know, beyond the legal restrictions, though.
Right.
It seems like Robert was just a very private person.
Yeah.
Almost reclusive.
He was.
Noah talks about how his father hated racism and homogeneity, but also kind of lived in his own world.
Yeah, his personality is a real contrast to Patricia's.
Right.
You know, Patricia's this...
Like, she's this vibrant,
outgoing force.
Outgoing force.
And he's much more reserved.
Yeah.
Almost enigmatic.
Yeah.
But he represents this kind of quiet form of resistance.
Right, and like he even ran an integrated restaurant.
Oh, yeah?
In the early 80s.
That was radical for the time.
Which was so radical for that time.
Yeah.
But when the government demanded separate toilets for black and white patrons, or threatened to shut him down, he just closed the restaurant.
To close it down.
Yeah.
He refused to compromise his principles.
Yeah.
It was quiet.
Yeah.
But powerful.
Such a powerful act of defiance.
Yeah.
But it meant that he wasn't always physically present in Noah's life.
Yeah, it was more of a long-distance relationship.
It was like they were pen pals.
Yeah, like pen pals for many years.
Many years.
And that distance undoubtedly shaped Noah's understanding of his father and their bond.
Yeah, and there's this hilarious story about Noah finally tracking down his father through the Swiss embassy.
Through the Swiss embassy.
Can you imagine, like, writing a letter?
I know.
To an embassy being like,
hey?
Right?
I think my dad might be Swiss.
Yeah, can you help me find him?
Can you help?
I love that the Swiss embassy,
I know,
true to their reputation for discretion,
actually helped.
They found Robert.
They found him.
And forwarded the letter.
It's crazy.
It's like bizarre and serendipitous.
It is. It's like this perfect blend of humor and absurdity.
And it leads to this really poignant reunion where they spend a weekend together and kind of try to bridge that gap in their relationship. This gap that was created by both personal choices and the cruel hand of history.
It's a powerful reminder that even amidst these larger societal forces at play, individual relationships are complex and nuanced,
Yes.
shaped by both love and circumstance.
Speaking of navigating these complex realities, we have to talk about his experiences hustling in the townships after apartheid ended. This guy was like a natural-born entrepreneur.
He was a hustler
from a young age.
From a young age.
It's important to understand the context here.
Right.
Like, while apartheid had ended, opportunities for Black South Africans were still super limited.
Particularly for young people.
Especially young people.
From disadvantaged backgrounds.
From disadvantaged backgrounds.
Yeah.
So he talks about how there were no jobs to be had.
Right.
So he created his own.
He had to.
He starts by selling pirated CDs. And then moves on to DJing parties.
Right.
And then through
a series of
almost comical misadventures, ends up running a pawn shop in Alexandria.
Yeah.
It was a world of survival, resilience, and constant hustle.
Constant hustle, yeah.
That whole chapter is a wild ride.
It is.
Like, we hear about elaborate schemes, shady deals, close calls with gangsters.
Yeah, it sounds like a movie.
It really does.
It does.
But it was real for him.
But it was very real for Noah.
It's a glimpse into a world that I think most people never see.
Most people never see.
A world where resourcefulness and street smarts are essential for survival.
Essential for survival.
Yeah.
And it's also where he really starts to grapple with the complexities of race and identity in a post-apartheid world.
Even within that community.
Yeah.
He was still seen as an outsider.
He was still seen as an outsider.
Yeah, because he had this unique perspective, having grown up kind of straddling these different worlds, these different cultures.
And he says, you know, it's easier to be an insider as an outsider than to be an outsider as an insider.
Exactly.
Which is so interesting.
Yeah.
And amidst all of this, he maintains a sense of humor.
Right. Finding the absurd.
Finding the absurd in even the most challenging situations.
Yeah.
It becomes this coping mechanism, a way to connect with people.
Yeah.
And a tool for sharing his experiences with others.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that makes his story so compelling.
Yeah. It's that he can find the humor even in the darkest of places.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that we can all learn from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a valuable lesson for all of us.
It's crazy, right? Like, how he can tell these stories about apartheid and social injustice. Right. And then just like weave in these moments of pure hilarity.
I think that's the beauty of his storytelling.
Yeah.
He can make you laugh 1 minute and then have you contemplating these really deep, complex issues the next.
And it's all with like this really genuine conversational style.
It feels so authentic.
Yeah, like you're just sitting down with a friend. Listening to them.
Yeah, like you're
share their life.
Right there in the room with him.
I know.
Yeah, just listening to him.
Tell the stories.
Yeah, it's really well done. So like after going through all of these stories and reflections.
Yes. What would you say are like the key takeaways?
Yeah, good question.
From Border Crime.
Well, for me, it's a story about resilience.
Okay.
You know, like Noah's life is a testament to the human capacity to overcome adversity and find strength in the face of oppression.
Yeah.
He shows us that even in the darkest of times, humor and hope can prevail.
And it's also a reminder that perspective is everything.
Absolutely.
Like his unique upbringing, his experience as a mixed race person in apartheid South Africa gives him this lens through which he sees the world.
Yeah, it's both insightful and hilarious.
Yeah.
He really challenges us to question our own assumptions about race, identity, and belonging.
Yeah.
He makes us see the absurdity of these societal divisions and the ways in which those divisions can be used to control and exploit people.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me like how his unconventional childhood seems to have directly shaped his worldview and his success as a comedian.
Oh, absolutely.
And a commentator.
Yeah. I mean, think about it.
Right.
He learned to adapt. To code switch. To navigate these different worlds with ease.
Yeah.
He developed this keen sense of observation and an ability to find humor in the most unexpected places.
Right.
Those are essential skills for any comedian.
Right.
But they're even more potent when combined with his lived experiences and his social commentary.
And he doesn't shy away from tough topics.
Not at all.
He tackles like
Yeah.
racism, poverty, social injustice head on.
Yeah.
But he does it in a way that's so engaging and thought-provoking.
Yeah.
And often hilarious.
Yeah, often hilarious.
It's a really rare gift.
It is a rare gift.
And I think that's what makes Born a Crime such a powerful and enduring book.
I agree.
Like, it really stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Absolutely.
It makes you laugh.
It does. It makes you think.
It makes you think.
And I think ultimately it leaves you feeling hopeful about the possibilities for like human connection and understanding.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't already, pick up a copy of Born a Crime.
Yeah. It's a must-read.
It really is.
For sure.
It's a truly remarkable book that offers a really unique and unforgettable perspective on life, race, and the power of the human spirit.
Well said.
And as you kind of delve into Noah's world, think about how your own experiences have shaped
your worldview.
Your worldview.
Yeah, that's a great point.
How do you navigate the complexities of identity and societal expectations?
Right.
What role does humor play in your life, particularly when facing challenges? I think those are all great questions to consider.
Yeah, this has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
Into Born a Crime.
I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I hope you, our listeners, got as much out of it as we did.
I hope so too.
So until next time,
right.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep laughing.
Absolutely.